Okay, there's a reason when I have to break down the deception and obfuscation of reality by these globe proponents.
This is Daniel Pratt, and his channel, Daniel Pratt Reshaping Our World. He spends a lot of his time in his super ritzy studio garage trying to teach us globe heads a thing or two. His experiments are flawed at best and usually rely on a complete and utter lack of understanding of the physics of our world. He spends a lot of time fixating on the fact that we rotate, and like a lot of flatards out there, he doesn't seem to understand why helicopters can hover without the world rotating away from them if we are indeed on a rotating ball. I don't need to tell you how stupid that idea is, but we need to tell Daniel now. This is the only way because he deletes any comments he doesn't like. He says it's because there's no debate. The Earth is flat. The reality is what he wants is a big flat Earth circle jerk in his comment section where any logical thought is thrown out and the only comments he keeps are the standard, "Way to go, Dan. You really showed those globies." But I am really getting ahead of ourselves here because we should let Daniel speak for himself.
That I call it going back to kindergarten. There's a reason they start pounding the globe into our heads from cradle and have to continue to grave. There's a reason they start pounding that globe into your head before kindergarten.
What a bunch of assholes, eh? For teaching the next generation about our world and what we've discovered along the way. We've been going about it all wrong this whole time. Nah, you don't teach the next generation. No, of course not. Sink or swim, survival of the fittest, right? What's even more interesting is the level of foresight these people had. That's some Nostradamus level shit right there to predict the billions of dollars that perpetuating the globe earth lie would bring in. And since the church had a bad habit of hanging people who said things like the earth was round, I find it hard to link a motive to the secret. It's always a case of follow the money, but there was none until recently. What really brings this point home is that the Russian space program recently has faltered to a point where SpaceX has taken most of the Earth's launch capacity over the last few years. Would the Russians allow an American company to make billions of dollars off the very launches it used to control itself? I doubt it.
So that's why I have to take you back there to get you back to your basic human instinct in order to see through their lies and contortions.
Buddy, I got news for you. If you're going to implore us to use our basic human instincts, then I have to check you off as ill-informed at minimum and most likely a bit batty, to be honest, because humans do have basic instincts, and usually taking advice from these guys is against that instinct.
To create a whirling, twirling fantasy world in your head. I'm going to prove it to you once again with basic kindergarten level science. Anyone that wants to can easily see. If you really need to, after seeing this, proof that the earth does not move, then go ahead and do the experiment yourself. If you really need to prove reality to yourself that bad, feel free. I already know what happens when I walk towards a fan. Apparently, anybody that lives on a globe doesn't. Okay? So let's go back to kindergarten, children.
Oh, goody, back to kindergarten. You remember that, Daniel. It's back when the earth was flat, your old dog was happy at the farm, and that bump in the night was definitely not daddy banging mommy.
Bump in the night, creeping up on your woman.
Here we have a fan representing the moving atmosphere of Earth going along with the rotation and orbit and hurling Milky Way motion of the Earth, okay? 3 different motions.
Your mom's got 3 different motions.
So, this fan, we're going to say our atmosphere is moving at 5 miles an hour. If we take this here handy-dandy flag and move it at 5 miles an hour along with this fan, this flag will not blow in this direction because it is moving along with the atmosphere at the same rate. So the wind from the fan will not affect the flag. It'll just hang down, okay? I didn't draw that perfectly example, but it'll just droop straight down because of gravity, right?
I'm going to clarify what he means for everyone. He is saying that since the planet rotates, and he is using a reference speed of 5 miles per hour as an example, then the atmosphere and the flag are rotating with it, and therefore the flag is limp and not in motion, and its relative speed to the atmosphere is 0 miles per hour. So far so good, Daniel. Let's keep going.
So if we move it along at 5 miles per hour, along with the fan, there will be no effect on the flag. It'll just be like you're holding it still. So far, their globe atmosphere moving works just fine. Where the problem comes in is, as soon as we turn around to go the opposite way on the globe, if we're going 5 miles an hour this way and there's no effect, suddenly when we move back into the moving atmosphere of that fan, this flag will immediately start blowing the other way. Every single time. It is measurable, verifiable, and repeatable.
Oh, Daniel, you've discovered what my 2-year-old daughter discovered the other day. She sorted out that when she runs with a light object, the wind moves it as she runs. I wonder if Daniel had the same reaction as my little girl. Did he jump up and down, clap his hands a few times? If you all caught that, though, Daniel had the physics right until he turned around with the flag and started walking the other way. He correctly deduced that the flag moving with the atmosphere would have a relative speed of 0 miles per hour and would thus hang. But then he drove off into the rhubarb when he said that heading the other direction at 5 miles per hour would make the flag move. I mean, he's right, but not because the Earth is flat or not rotating, but because he already had us moving with the atmosphere or standing still on the planet with a relative speed of 0. His math, not mine. So when you move the other direction, you're essentially running with the flag, Daniel. Congrats! You took yourself further back than kindergarten, though, buddy. Toddler level shit right there.
So, unless you globe proponents can show me the car, the train, or the plane that Earth is traveling in through the galaxy, shut up with your planes, trains, and automobiles. When we do science, we can test the conditions of our outside world in the conditions of the outside world. And every single solitary time, that fan will show you. You cannot walk the opposite direction of a moving atmosphere without feeling the force of it.
You're starting to loop here, Daniel. We get that you don't seem to understand how speed and relativity work. No need to drive it home, buddy. But going back to your hate for the planes, trains, and automobiles that made up childhood math, I'd like to remind you that the planet is the car in this example, and you're the stupid meatbag going for the ride inside it. So why would you feel the atmosphere when you're going along for the ride? Remember, when I posted on your video, you probably deleted the comment, but I asked you what you think would happen if you hovered a drone inside a moving vehicle. Do you think it would be affected by the air around the van or only the air within the van?
What happens when we fly a moving object inside a moving object?
Well, that was super interesting, wasn't it? It would appear that the drone didn't give two shits about your moving atmosphere. Could that be a perfect representation of the atmosphere within something moving along with it? To keep up with that van under normal flight conditions, the drone would have had to tilt over and chase that van. It wasn't going so fast that it would have been hard to do, but the simple bobbing up and down of the hovering drone is pretty synonymous with hovering in a neutral airstream for anyone who has ever flown a drone before. So what just happened? Well, with the van's doors closed and theoretically, but not really, airtight to keep the surrounding atmosphere from interacting with the inside atmosphere, we can see that the drone simply recycles the air in its current atmosphere. It cares not what occurs outside the van as it's flying in the air inside the van, and the air is stationary within this van. It has a relative speed of 0 to the van.
So until you can walk into the breeze of a fan without it affecting the flag or the streamers or the air pressure gauge you have, or the wind gauge, whatever, wind speed gauge, then your moving atmosphere is bullshit. I can prove to you by moving that fan with the 5 mile an hour breeze, the flag with the 5 mile an hour breeze coming from that fan, as I'm moving with that atmosphere, You're absolutely right. It won't affect that flag until the very second I start moving in the opposite direction towards the fan. I will then immediately get the full brunt of the 5-mile-an-hour breeze, and it will blow the fan in that, or the flag in that direction, because I'm no longer moving with that atmosphere. Thus, if I was on the equator, as long as I'm moving with your moving atmosphere at 1,000 miles an hour, I'm fine. I won't feel a thing. The second I turn around and start to walk west, I would immediately be hit with 1,000-mile-an-hour wind. You cannot realize that fact of reality. You're f***ing insane. And the fact that you expect me to means you must be insane. Otherwise, again, do the experiment and prove me wrong with science.
You see, Daniel, this is not called science. It's called critical analysis. Just like what you do by writing bullshit on an 8x11 piece of white paper, I offer a critical analysis based on my observations. My observations are based on actual testable observation, while yours are, well, they're ideas, I guess I'll give you that. But since this is your idea of a flat earth proving scientific experiment, I'll stick to criticizing you instead.